call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Ariane Lipski da Silva takes on Wang Cong this Saturday at UFC 316. And I think this is going to be a fun stand-up fight between these two. Maybe da Silva shoots takedowns at some point in the fight, but I think this one's going to take place primarily on the feet, and I'm looking forward to this one. But Ariane Lipski, she is 31, 5'6", with a 67-inch reach and 17-10 in her MMA career. So got a lot of losses, but they're to pretty decent competition. You know, her last two losses were to Jasmine Jasudavicius and Karine Silva. She lost to Priscilla Cachoeira, Montana De La Rosa back in the day, Antonina Shevchenko, Joanne Calderwood, Molly McCann. So not terrible losses. I can excuse a lot of those. But former Brazilian Muay Thai champion. Before transitioning to MMA, started Muay Thai at a really young age. So, you know, has really good kicks, really good leg kicks, high kicks, you know, front body kicks. Throws really hard punches when she chooses to throw strikes, and throws in combination as well. Throws a nice, you know, punch combo, follows them up with kicks a lot of the time, and works pretty well in the clinch, throwing knees, especially when she can defend takedowns, dig her underhooks, and punish people for taking shots on her. And she's usually the one pressing forward in her fights. Has a really aggressive kind of forward pressure Muay Thai fighting style, and has a lot of UFC experience. I think this will be her 14th UFC fight since she joined the UFC back in 2019. Jiu-Jitsu purple belt with 4 submission victories in her career. Has an armbar against Casey O'Neill, where she hurt her really bad on the feet, eventually got her back, and then got the armbar. Has a knee bar against Luana Carolina back in the day, and then a few on the regional scene. But she normally struggles with grapplers with good wrestling pedigrees, fighters who can kind of just get her to the ground very easily, like Jasmine Jasudavicius, Karine Silva, Montana De La Rosa, Antonina Shevchenko. These fighters that were able to get her to the ground and control her and either get the submission or get her into a position that she couldn't escape, and get the ground and pound TKO on her. So curious to see how she looks in this one, because I don't see Wang Cong really shooting takedowns. Even though she can, I see her primarily looking to keep this one on the feet. So curious to see how da Silva looks against somebody with the striking pedigree of Wang Cong, who is 33 years old. She's 5'6" with a 66.5-inch reach. So going to be pretty much the same frames. Kong is going to have a 1/2 inch reach disadvantage, and she is 7-1 in her career. You know, she has an extensive striking background in I think it's called Sanda Chinese kickboxing, as well as just traditional boxing. I heard somebody say that she was supposed to go to the Paris Olympics for boxing to represent China back in the day, but she decided to focus on her MMA career, which is just crazy. But you know, very powerful striker, really good kicks, has great boxing, really fast hands. I think she's definitely going to have the speed advantage and probably the power advantage in this one. But susceptible to the calf kicks in her last fight against Bruna Brazil, who should have, you know, tried to capitalize on that a little bit more. But Kong was able to kind of just push through it. You couldn't even really tell that it really affected her at all. I'm sure she just has very conditioned legs to where those things don't really affect her anymore in her career. But you know, she does a good job of having constant pressure on her opponents and putting, you know, a lot of volume against them, really making them hesitant to you know, push forward and engage. We saw that in her last fight with Bruna Brazil, who, you know, she was a Brazilian Muay Thai champion in her own right, and Kong Wang kind of dominated that fight. But it's just consistent kicks, punches. She feints really well in between her combinations and her movements. She cuts you off, rinse and repeat, and just kind of confuses her opponents, gets them to pause and be kind of gun shy, honestly. So given that, I think Kong gets this one done. You know, I think she's the better striker. Like I said, she feints well, she mixes up her strikes. I think she'll be much faster. I think she will have the power advantage. Ariane kind of loops her punches at times and kind of telegraphs her attacks against her opponents, and I don't think she's faced the caliber of striker in Wang Cong to really punish her for that. I could see Ariane implementing some grappling since she does have decent subs, but I think she'll be able to keep it on the feet. I think she'll be the one pushing her back, cutting off the cage, and just being the one going first. I don't think Ariane will have much takedown success, since Kong will be kind of the one pushing forward and keeping her on her heels. And we've seen Kong have, you know, her own takedown offense as well. She's got like 75% takedowns. takedown percentage in the UFC and 100% takedown defense rate. So I think she'll have the speed and technique advantage and probably the power, even though Ariane does throw with heat. And we've seen her hurt people. You know, we saw her hurt Casey O'Neill pretty badly in one of her last fights. But I don't think it'll be anything that Cong hasn't seen before. You know, Da Silva, like I said, she was a Brazilian Muay Thai champion as well, and so was Bruna Brazil. And we saw how that one turned out. You know, Bruna Brazil just, you know, looked like she was levels below Cong Wang in that fight. And, you know, Ariane Da Silva, she's just not consistent enough. She's on a 2-fight losing streak, doesn't have really any momentum going into this fight. You know, she'll win a few, lose a few. You just never really know, you know, who's going to show up. And I just trust Cong. I just trust Cong more at this point in her UFC career. Ariane, you know, she arguably lost to Melissa Gatto in their fight. She won by split decision. You could argue she lost 2 of those rounds. And that was primarily a striking fight. And I think Wang Cong is, you know, much better than Melissa Gatto. I've just seen Ariane Silva. I've seen her get KO'd on the feet by Priscilla Cachoeira. I've seen her get ground and pound KO'd, just kind of covering up and giving up, so to speak. And the only time we've ever seen Cong lose is she was just kind of, I feel like she wasn't really taking that fight seriously with Gabriela Fernandez. She ended up getting caught and choked out. So with the right mindset and the game plan going into this one, looking to keep it on the feet, I think she's able to outpoint Da Silva. And I think she can get her out of there too. You know, like I said before, you know, Silva, she can be kind of wild. And I think maybe her aggression and, you know, kind of wild looping punches and the way that she kind of telegraphs her attacks, I think the speed and power and countering ability of Wang Cong in this one might be able to get her out of there by KO. But if she can't do that, I think she'll definitely outpoint her on the feet for all 3 rounds and get the win by decision. Thanks.